Okay Reddit, what's your worst, most awkward sex experience? I hooked up with this really hot guy from work one night. I had an idea he was a virgin, but that didn't matter. However, what he did that night ensured he left that way. Things were going very well, getting hot very fast. All of a sudden he sticks his dick in my belly button. I yell, "What the fuck are you doing?" His only response was, "Isn't that where babies come from?" I grabbed my stuff and ran out so fast, laughing my ass off the whole way home. Amazingly, he came to work the next day and asked for a second chance. I had to say no, I couldn't even make eye contact. Memosta the future says, I was living in a high-rise building in Chicago, one of those way too expensive places close to the loop where lots of finance people loved to pretend their apartments were larger than the ones of their neighbors. So this one night I meet this great girl at a friend's party, we hit it off and end up at my place humping like rabbits while sounding like rhinos. It was loud. It was really loud. This tiny, skinny girl turned out to have pipes the size of a church organ. Not that I'm bothered, this turns me on all the more, and then a knock, not just one knock, actually, a barrage of knocking on my door. I look to my alarm clock, mind you I am still in her, and it's 4 a.m., again knocking, a lot of knocking, banging even. "Open up, police department," I hear a voice say. I race to the door while trying to get into a pair of boxers, look through the spy and guess what, there are 2 Chicago PD officers, the building security and what must be 3 or 4 of my neighbors in the hallway. I try opening the door but the moment I turn the key I'm already being shoved back in by one of the cops. Turns out my neighbor called them telling them he thought I was beating her up and that they should come over right away. Another cop questioned the girl separately for what seemed like an eternity and after she was satisfied that everything was in fact okay they both wished us a good night and eventually left. We kind of laughed about it but the magic was gone. I was definitely not getting anything anymore here tonight and I thought I'd never see her again. Fast forward to the following Sunday. A knock on my door. I open up, it's her. She's smiling, with a post-it note in her hand, it reads, "Don't worry. He's just fucking me." Name deleted says, a few years ago an ex and I were driving back to my parents' place at night, in high school at the time, when I asked her if she would give me a little roadhead. She agreed and began to do her thing. I was driving down the road being as careful as possible when boom goes the dynamite. Awesome, right? Wrong. Apparently we were at a bad angle. When I went off I caused her to gag and she ended up vomiting all over my crotch and driver's seat. I'm reveling in post-BJ endorphins when all of a sudden I get a whiff of vomit and semen. It was awful, but that's not the worst part. As soon as I realize what has happened I pulled off the road into a high school parking lot so I can at least attempt to clean up some of the mess. As soon as I park I realize there's a cop on the other side of the parking lot just lurking. He sees me do a high-speed turn into the lot late at night so, naturally wants to see what I'm up to. By the time I get out of the car he's getting out of his as well. He walks up, shines his flashlight on me and asks, "Is everything alright?" Here I am, pants unzipped, crotch covered in cum and puke and all I can say is, "My girlfriend got sick." He walks over to her side and she's hanging out of the open door busting up laughing. He walks back over to me, puts his hand on my shoulder, laughs and says, "Have a good night sir," before walking back to his car and driving away. Wego says, "Okay this is a bad one, this was back in high school." To make a long story short, my friend and I, both guys and straight, were both experimenting with our female friend. We were all virgins so just trying everything out. It began with making out and eventually she was giving us both handjobs for all of our first times ever. My friend shoots first and gets it all over her. She runs into the bathroom to go clean it up and is ostensibly going to come back in and finish me off. So to set the scene we are both sitting on her bed with our pants off, me with a raging boner, him with a deflating one with spooge dripping out. We hear a door close and assume it is the bathroom door and then we see the knob turning and assume it is her coming in but oh no it is both her parents. What the fuck, is pretty much a thought going through all of our minds. Her dad is scary. He is a big black dude who used to play college ball. Her mom is a white former hippie current bleeding heart lawyer. My friend pulls a moment of genius or stupidity, still haven't decided, and says with a serious face, "We're gay." And that either saved us or doomed us. Dad's rage faded. Mom's motherly liberal instincts kicked in, and after letting us get dressed she made us coffee and has us talk out our whole situation. Thinking on the fly, we just went with it and told a big story about how we were gay but our parents were super intolerant, but Laura, their daughter, was very cool and let us use her room to be together while she hung out in a separate part of the house. They bought it all, but the fucking worst thing is that they bought it too hard and practically adopted us as their two gay sons. We were family friends for years before this, but from this point on they would always make sure to email us stuff about gay rights, and whenever we were over they would mention or ask about new stuff happening in the gay world. They bought me a CD of coming out music for Xmas that year. This was years ago, and to this day they still think we are totally gay. The side benefit of this is that we were allowed to sleep over pretty frequently so we could be together, when in reality we were double teaming their daughter. Foghorn 5950 says, "It's high school, I couldn't have been older than 16 or 17, and me and my girlfriend at the time are hanging out in her room watching TV. Her parents are home but they're busy in the kitchen cooking something, so we decided that we could sneak some special time if we were extra quiet. We start getting intimate, and a few minutes later we're both completely naked and going at it like wild animals. We're talking like 5-star sex here, almost to the point where I don't care about the noise anymore. We just changed positions and started anew when I hear a knock on the door and the doorknob starts turning. I cannot describe the sense of dread that came over me as we quickly tried to jump under the covers and cover our nakedness as much as possible, but there's no hiding what we were doing. I was caught, and her dad was going to kill me and bury me in the backyard. It was a done deal in my mind. What happened next I will recite verbatim, for it is forever seared in my memory. Her mother pokes her head in the door. Oh, sorry to interrupt. Foghorn, I've got a tin of cookies here for when you go home. She then smiles, leaves said tin of delicious cookies, she was a pastry chef, closes the door, and leaves. I don't think we stopped laughing for a good 10 minutes. Nuo92 says, this isn't my story to tell but I can't resist. So a friend is receiving the first-hand job of his life. It's the first time he's ever been with a girl, and so he's kind of nervous. She reaches down to wank him off, and after 2 strokes he ejaculates everywhere. That's not all though. During the orgasm he lets out a long fart. He's so embarrassed about farting and coming at the same time that he resorts to telling this girl, I love you. I think that's basically where all his problems with women began. Poor Decision says, during my sophomore summer home from college one of my good friends from childhood was visiting, and my dad decided it was okay if I had 10 to 15 friends over to drink a bit in the backyard. Well, from that mild-mannered gathering I managed to pull a girl and brought her back to my room around 1 a.m. Around 1:30 as I'm beating guts on this girl we hear a repeatedly louder tapping on the window to my room. She freaks the fuck out and I put on boxers and open the blinds to see what's going on. I flip open the blinds to see my fucking dad staring back at me in my boxers and a random girl with the sheets pulled over her tits. Turns out he went out to the backyard to clean up after we were all done partying and accidentally locked himself out of the house. Name deleted says, late one night my parents had gone to bed and my girlfriend and I are fooling around on the couch in the living room. It got hot fast and we started fucking, thinking that at 1 a.m. there's no way that my parents are getting up. She was wearing a skirt and simply removed her panties. I was wearing loose jeans, so I just undid the button and unzipped. I was sitting on the couch and she was riding me reverse cowgirl when we heard someone coming down the stairs. There was no time to do anything except for her to throw a blanket over us. Thankfully we hadn't removed our shirts, so it appeared that she was simply sitting on my lap and we were cuddling. My mom descended down the stairs and informs us that she can't sleep. She proceeds to join us on the couch to watch a little TV. Mind you, my cock is buried in my girlfriend. Now my girlfriend was a freak, and this seemed to totally turn her on. She kept shifting her weight or leaning forward to grab her drink off the coffee table. She was doing this while talking to my mom, chatting and laughing. This went on for about 5 minutes before my mom finally got up to use the bathroom. The second she was out of sight my GF started bouncing on my cock again and came as hard as she ever had. This in turn caused me to burst, as well. We recovered pretty quickly and she got off of me. We were able to get ourselves resituated just in time for my mom to come back and sit back down. Her and my GF continued talking for a good 30 minutes while I sat there unable to speak. The garbage mankin says, my girlfriend, 2 months at the time, asking me to put her into a garbage bag. I wondered where she was going with this, so I obliged. As I tied the ends together, I will never forget the muffled words from within, now poke a hole in the bag and fuck me through it. This wasn't so bad, but after a good session of me fucking a garbage bag girl, she asked me to pee onto the bag. I couldn't do this, so I poured a warm cup to tea I had nearby. This is tea, the bag replied. Worst experience ever. Windmilling says, freshman year at college I got really drunk in the dorms. This one Saturday night this really skinny kind of hot Russian girl from down the hall keeps fucking the shit out of me while playing BEI Rut. She asks me if I want to smoke a cig with her. Being not very experienced sexually, I pounced at the opportunity. She brings me back to her room and we smoke a cig, then start to tear each other's clothes off. I start to rail her from behind in the lower of her bunked beds and try and deliver the thruster cannon, and slam her real hard. I slam my head into a bar that supported the top bunk and got disoriented, super lightheaded. From there the night gets hazy. I wake up the next morning to find half a condom still around my penis. I pull it off and start the usual, what the fuck happened last night? I rip it off and start to sneak out of her room. I stepped in some water on the way out and didn't think twice about it. Months go by without talking to this Russian. One night she drunkenly stumbles into my room and recounts the night. Apparently after banging my head I put her on the concrete floor and resumed thruster cannon position. I yelled, time for your windmill, and proceeded to smack her left ass cheek with my right hand in a circular, continuous motion. She said it happened for a good 5 minutes before I yelled, I have whiskey dick, ripped off my condom, and pissed on her floor. I couldn't look her in the eyes after she told me, but the story always makes me and my buddies laugh.